Welcome to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Gruely True Sports Network. I'm your co-host for the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I would like to welcome in my co-host. First up, a man who just sent me a picture of a national championship ring that he won in 1981, and I'm highly impressed. Help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Mike, how you doing today? Good, great win. Fun day.
Oh, yeah. And my other co-host has a Big Ten championship ring, which looks much nicer, by the way. Help me welcome to the show, Collin Hartman. How you doing, Collin?
What's up, Mike? How we doing?
I don't know, but when you go in your school, I don't think there's a big picture of Kyle Guy, who broke your scoring records. All right, the Indiana Hoosiers got out another one. This was a blowout win because they won this one by 3. Rob Finney at the buzzer hits the shot to give the Hoosiers a 71-68 win, running Indiana's record at 9-2. My first concern here, once again, is on the defensive side of the ball, Steve.
Yeah, it's the same problems that they're playing this team all year long. It's their weakness. I mean, you just have to – and I applaud them because they're working around their weakness and they're winning basketball games. So they're not – they're putting so much pressure on the perimeter defense to do post defense. And they're overall being out of position so many opportune times on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to bite them in the butt eventually. But right now, the resiliency of this basketball team is just overcoming that weakness, and I'm sure Coach Miller will overcome that at some point in the season.
Well, see, when we talk about resiliency, the thing that stands out to me here, Colin, is how young this team is. And I think that the last 4 wins, which all went down to the wire, they gutted them out, won the game, are all huge in the confidence aspect. And when you get that confidence, I think everything else is going to start to fall into place eventually.
Oh, 100%. At the end of the day, I was there last year and the year before, and the year before that, and 2 years before that. So I've been there the last 5 years, and this might be a diss to me. But at the end of the day, these guys are gritty. They grind out wins. And as long as they can understand they did not win it pretty, they did not win it soundly, they did some things that were great and kept them in the game. Early on, Jawan had an amazing game. One of the things that kind of surprised me, and we talked about this in the last episode, was basically how we had the post advantage. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we were talking about it earlier, me, Mike, and Steve were early, and Mike, Steve, and I, and we were talking about how we had the post advantage, but we were over-hoping on the post to give up those threes early, and it kind of hurt us. I just don't want a team this talented and with this potential to kind of read through this game in the sense that we won this game single-handedly. It was not single-handedly. We grinded this game out, obviously to the last second and then some. But it was a fun game to watch. But I think with the talent versus talent, we should have won that game by 15.
Yeah, Colin, can I ask you a question? Isn't that the most dangerous team to play, though, is a team that grinds you out, that grinds you
100%.
Don't you think people now are coming to Indiana going, crap, if I'm not up by 20 in the last 3 minutes, I'm probably going to lose this game because they grind till the end of the game. And
exactly.
That's a more dangerous team than a team like the Duke that is a front-running team that if they're ahead, they'll blow you out. If they get into a dogfight, they get beat.
Exactly, and I think you hit it nail on the head, Steve. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to get into a close game, if you're coming into Assembly Hall, you're going to either get blown out or be in a close game. And with the experience that our very young team has, with a couple of senior leaders being able to lock in and be in familiar territory with being in close games and finishing those close games out with a sound mindset, sound playing, and winning a game. I think that team should be scared because, quite candidly, it's not going to be easy when, A, coming into IU by any stretch of the imagination, or B, just playing us at the end of the day, because we are going to grind you out every single game. And I think this team is only going to continue to get better because of these experiences. I think that the one thing that we could do better is start out stronger, whether it be in transition or defensively, or just having a stronger sense of urgency, and get that lead out so we don't have to grind those games out. But at the end of the day, that comes with that comes with experience and age and stuff like that. Steve, you know that.
Well, starting off strong starts with leadership. I mean, they still don't have the on-court leadership they need. And the other thing that I'll give it to you, Mike, I'll give it to you entirely, Mike, is that this team not only grinds, it's a talented basketball team that grinds.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say. Go ahead,
but
Mike.
see, this is what I would worry about with that, Steve. They're a talented team. They know they're a talented team. They're getting away with doing things like that last 23 seconds. That should not be the shot that wins the game. The ball should go to Juwan Morgan at some point, or Romeo or Fennessy takes the ball to the hole. So my only concern is, with a team that talented, do they all of a sudden start to relax and think, well, we can get away with, kind of taking the shortcut to things?
No way.
And Colin, I got one word for that. And it's just inexperience. This is just an inexperienced young basketball team. Colin, go ahead. Mike, go ahead. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's inexperience. Why that happened in the last 23 seconds.
Well, see, the thing is, the problem that I have with it is that when you just get handled the way that you did the way that we did at Duke, it's the problem that we still come out slow, especially in games like in-state games. Drives me insane. I've been part of teams like that. It drives me nuts, especially because after we've been handled the way we did at Duke, to be able to bring ourselves back and know that we have to be firing on all cylinders right from the get-go. Because we wouldn't have been in the situation that we were at the end. We wouldn't have had to leave it up to rest at all.
That's why that concern pops up to me, Colin, just because it seems like this is the pattern of the game. And the problem is this: it's great to be tough. And, I mean, we've seen it in other sports, like the Cardiac Browns in 1980. You see teams that make these great comebacks. They make a habit of it all season long, and then they get into a tournament atmosphere, and maybe that shot doesn't fall, and before you know it, you're done because you haven't done everything you were supposed to do.
Right. Especially in a tournament situation that we get into in basketball, it's a one shot one loss, one shot, one whatever, can lose you your whole season. And we can't bank on that. And that's why I said, if we would have played harder at the beginning, we wouldn't have been in the situation that we were in the end. Because I fully believe that we are more talented, and that's why we came out on top. We were grittier, we are more talented. Yes, we're younger, but at the end of the day, it's about the way you start and the way you finish. I think we started terribly, and I don't think anybody in IU Nation will disagree with me. But I think we finished strong, obviously, because we won. But if we can be a team that can start strong and finish strong, we will be a completely different team. We'll be a top 5 team every single year for as long as Indiana University is a program, just because it is a destination place to build a career.
Yeah,
hands down, no questions asked.
If you look at Coach Miller's teams, Archie Miller's teams at Dayton, this is the kind of team they were. That's how they made an Elite 8 run, and they did it without this kind of talent. And like I said, if they get the defensive end taken care of, this is one of the best shooting teams in the country. Today they shot 52% field goal range, or 43% from the three-point range, and for once, 80% from the free throw range, which if you drop that down just a little bit, you lose this game. So when you look at the stats, I mean, to me, the turnovers in the defense, if they clean that up a little bit, I think this is a top 10 team.
Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. And just in relation to your experience as a player under Coach Knight and everything of that nature with Isaiah and everybody, as a player, did you guys get coached game by game, obviously, scouting report, to if your inside was weak, and we talked about this on Wednesday, if the opposing team's inside was weak, do you guys stay out on the defenders and rely on the bigs on the opposing team to finish over guys like Jawan and Duran and Evan and things of that nature? Because at the beginning of the game, the reason that we got ourselves in kind of in my opinion, the reason we got ourselves in kind of a fit is because we were giving up open shots because we were over-helping. And that kind of frustrated me. What are your thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, it's kind of the first time that I've seen IU actually overhelp. I mean, I've been a big proponent of the fact that I didn't think Indiana helped enough. defensively. And I agree with you, Colin. This game, they were over-helping to the fact they were diminishing their strength, which is their perimeter defense, to try and overcompensate for the post defense. And I really didn't think that Butler was that strong of a post presence. They weren't that strong of an inside team. But we were overcompensating now to make maybe Miller's listening to our show too much and listening to me too much. My ego's not going to let me believe that. But maybe I got to get Risley happy. So we gotta go fix our post defense, and we'll give up our perimeter defense. But I thought they overcompensated today. I think that any great team, and what we did at Indiana was, we played to our strengths, and we tried as best we could to hide our weaknesses. Now, generally under Knight, there weren't many weaknesses because he was such a genius at defense that there weren't many. But, yeah, I thought they overcompensated today, and that put them in more peril than it did them good. They didn't need to overcompensate that much. Good call.
But don't you think the fact that now they're doing the opposite and overcompensating means they are working on it, and you just kind of find that common ground?
Very much so, and that's a great sign. Because that's the weakness of this basketball team. That's probably the only real weakness of this basketball team, other than I still think on-court leadership. And that'll come with time. But, yes, Mike, you're exactly right.
Yeah, but Steve, go ahead. I'm going to be completely candid with you, Steve. I think that at this point in the season, it is frustrating to me that we have guys like Juwan and have guys like Zach who, yes, he's been battling injuries, but he's back on the court. He played significant minutes tonight. It's frustrating to me that the vocal leadership is not there. I'm going to be completely candid with you.
I said it in game one.
It drives me nuts. I don't care if you're scoring baskets. I don't care who it is. I don't care if the guy hasn't had a single point all night. If you don't have a guy that can rally vocally, it does not matter. And Mike, we had this conversation the other night. Points don't matter. We had this conversation a couple weeks ago. If you're scoring points, it does not matter. It is the vocal leadership, because baskets aren't always going to go in. That is the bottom line. Baskets aren't going to always go in, no matter who you are. But you can always bring your vocal leadership. So you were talking about Romeo being a leader. And I did not feel like he was a leader today because he wasn't scoring points. So at the end of the day, like you were saying, that you thought he was emerging as a leader, but I respect Romeo as the day is long because I appreciate him coming to IU. But at the end of the day, he did not bring leadership to the game because points were not coming in. But guys who are vocal and guys who carry the team are vocal. And I will stand by that as the day is long because I played the game. I played at this level. Steve played at this level. And I will guarantee you that Steve will have no objection because I guarantee you while Steve was there, Isaiah Thomas was the guy that carried that team, whether he was scoring or not, or under the lights, in a game or not, because that team in practice or the game, Isaiah was one of the most vocal guys and one of the most upfront guys that you would see around. Hey, and that's what this team is doing.
So let me ask you a question, Colin. Let me ask you a question, Colin, because that's a great point, and you're exactly right. And I've harped on that from day one. I thought that was a bigger problem with the defense, was there was no leadership on the floor on the team. You've heard me talk about that every damn show we've done. So here's the question. Yep. Is that a product of the team, or is that a product of Miller? Is Archie Miller not allowing somebody to step up and be a vocal leader on his team, or is he not pushing hard enough to find a vocal leader of this basketball team? I mean, what's your thoughts, Colin? You played a year for him. You know him.
I guarantee, as being played a game a year for him, that is not a product of Coach Miller. Quite candidly, and I think next year, I think next year, Coach Miller will put in. I think that he's pushing it right now, trying to do it. But I think the player that I'm thinking of will just. I mean, he's kind of tentative just because you have Jawan Morgan, Zach Roberts, and a lot of older guys that are, take quote-unquote precedence. But I think that the player that will take over next year will be Rob Finney, just because he is a spitting image of Coach Miller. He makes big shots, and he takes care of the ball. And the thing is, I think that he has the vocal capacity and the mental capacity to move that team forward vocally and not care what anybody else thinks. Not anybody on the team. All he cares about is winning, right? And I think that we're lacking that today. I think we're lacking that this year. And I think dudes just need to just completely forget what anybody cares. Forget about locker room talk. Forget about what anybody's going to say behind your back, because at the end of the day, nobody is going to remember anybody. The only teams, and I guarantee, Steve, you can agree with me on this. The only teams that you remember are the teams that won. And the only teams that won are the teams that were brutally honest and got in fights in practice. There's no way that you disagree with me on that. You had a great leader that would challenge people.
You can go Buckner. You can go Quinn Buckner in 76. You can go Isaiah Thomas in 81. You can go Steve Alford in 87. All three of those
challenge people, get in your face. Get in your face in practice, not care.
Right.
And that's what I want to see from this team. That's exactly what I want to see from this team. I want to see Jawan do that. I think Rob will do that next year. I think he's a little intimidated this year. I'd love to have a conversation with him about it this year so we can get on the winning track early. But I guarantee, Steve, you don't disagree with me.
Over.
I agree. I think Rob is completely doing it.
Especially the more he shows it with the way he's playing, it's easier to start doing that. And the thing I remember is this about Isaiah Thomas. Steve, first 2 years, 77, 78, or 78, 79, there was no vocal leader on that team, really, was there, Steve?
Well, Wayne Radford was there my freshman year. Wayne was a pretty good vocal leader. He was a senior among a bunch of young teams because the team had retooled after the 77 team. That was the year that Benson kind of went with it, and they went 15 and 14 or something and had a dismal year. And Wayne, when my freshman year, Wayne was there, but then Wayne graduated, and Woodson was just beginning to establish himself. But Woodson was more like a Juwan Morgan, just a very quiet leader. He was a productive leader, not a vocal leader. And so, yeah, you're right. But when Isaiah came on, our whole culture changed overnight. So
yeah, and I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference between a vocal leader that's just a guy who's a good player on the team. The teams that are special, like you talked, the Isaiah Thomas team, those are the guys where the vocal leader is also the best player on the team.
Right.
Mike, and exactly. That's what we were talking about, and I'm not trying to dog on you, Mike, but I'm gonna call you out because that's the nature of the show. You said the other week when Romeo came up big, make a couple big shots. Yeah. Anybody can make a couple big shots. I made a couple big shots. I don't care. At the end of the day, if you're going to build a team around somebody, they have to be vocal. And this is exactly why I bring it back to what I'm saying. You have to be vocal as a leader in practice, in the games. You have to be able to grind these games out. And at the end of the day, it's not about if you score points or not. It's if you can build charisma and momentum in a team as a whole. It's not about scoring points. That will come if you do the former.
Well, nobody here, I never said it was because he scored points. I said it's because he had the ability to take a game over at the end of the game. The thing is this, that guy who can do it consistently is Juwan Morgan. Because Romeo today came up a little bit short. He had a decent game, nothing great. But when I look at this, I also know that you can have a team at the start of the year that does not have that vocal leader, and that vocal leader can develop. And
he's got to merge.
My hope is that's Fennessy, because I've seen it on teams before that I've coached where a guy's just a guy, and then he makes a couple plays, and he wins you guys some games. And then all of a sudden, when he's vocal, people listen to him because they trust that what he is doing is for the best of the team and that he can get the job done himself. Because, we've all seen guys on teams that try to be vocal leaders, but they crack under pressure. And those guys are not good leaders. And it's really hard to have a team. I'll tell you a guy that's the perfect example to me was Mateen Cleaves with Michigan State back in the early 2000s.
Right.
I know Steve remembers that, but that Michigan State team was not a great team. But he basically willed that team to win. Kind of like Isaiah willed IU to win. But when you look at the history of what you're talking about, there's not a whole lot of those guys out there.
I agree. And I think we talked about this Wednesday, how Rob has made big shot after big shot after big shot this year. I mean, and Mike and Steve, tell me if you disagree right now. Either one of you, Rob has made big shots. So he's proved himself as a freshman. And as a player, Steve can agree with me, that is a necessity. You can't just step in and be a vocal leader. You have to prove yourself as a player before you step in and be a vocal leader. And I think this is a point in time that as a freshman, Rob can step in and start leading this team vocally. And one of the players, whether it be Jawan or Zach or one of the staff members, staff coaches being Coach Miller or one of the assistant coaches, have to sit Rob down and be able to have this adult conversation with him and say, look, you have produced, you have taken care of the ball, you have won us games. You need to step up, play the game the right way, keep doing what you're doing, and lead this team. Help lead this team to win after win after win. And he's fully capable. He's proved that to all of us.
Well, the thing that impressed me the most today. Well,
here's the deal.
The thing that impressed me the most today, Collin, was this. I didn't think he had a great game. But at the end of that game, he made the play to win it. I mean, he was 3 for 8. He had a really bad turnover with like 2 minutes left in the game. But he was still the guy. He wasn't going to give that ball up at the end.
He's got the stones. He's got the stones to take the shot.
All right. Okay.
And everybody trusts him to take that shot.
Here's what I wish. And I know that Indiana men's basketball Twitter page follows both Collin and I. Mike, they don't follow you. I checked.
I don't have a
Mike,
page.
You're not important.
My page
you're
is
not important,
really,
Mike.
I hate to tell you this,
but
if you pull up my old page, I've got more followers than both of you put together.
Is listening right now, and he hears this, or some of his Twitter interns listen. I think what we need to do right now, Collin, and tell me if you disagree or agree with this. Pull Rob Finney in and say, you are now captain of this basketball team. I think that gives him.
I don't think you have to be a captain to be a leader, Steve.
No, but I think it gives a freshman the ability to feel more confident about being vocal, is what I think. I agree with you, Mike. You don't have to be a captain to be a leader. I get that entirely.
Exactly.
Right.
I agree.
But I think for a freshman, for him to come in under the shadow of Romeo Langford, under the shadow of Juwan Morgan, and seeing what Rob Finney is doing with his steady play, his clutch performances, and not staying just clutch, I would bring him in and say, you are now going to be one of my captains. And let's anoint him that luxury, and maybe that gives him that confidence that Colin's talking about to take him over the top. So that's just my opinion.
Hey, Steve, answer me this. And I'm not trying to be a dick in any way, said in any sense of the form. Did Coach Knight ever pull people in to be captains, like talk to them or anything? Was it just team voted? I know we talked about it earlier.
Every game.
So,
I mean, yeah.
How would that go under Coach Knight? How would that go under Coach Knight? If he wanted to add a person to the captaincy, how would that go?
But he played it. Knight. We knew that Isaiah was our leader. We knew that. But then
exactly
based on what the need for that individual game was, he would call me in and he would say, Risley, I'm going to have you guard Kellogg, and I've got to have you. You've got to be a leader here. You've got to play defense. You have to focus on this. Don't worry about anything else. But I'm putting you on Kellogg, and how you go is how this game will go on Kellogg, because we have to shut Clark Kellogg down. Or he'd say, Ray, you've got to stop Magic Johnson. If we put Ray on Magic, and many times we did put Ray on Magic because Ray was the best athlete that we had to guard somebody like a Magic and to hang with him. But yeah, that happened every game. But it didn't take away from like Isaiah being our overall leader. But there were individual situations in each game where he used it to his advantage to make special circumstances become more available in the game to guard certain players or create better opportunities for certain outcomes that he wanted to see that he knew would win us the basketball game.
And I think that's one of the things that we're missing quite candidly in this society is that when the season starts, the people who are dubbed a captain stay a captain. And from what I'm taking, correct me if I'm wrong, it goes from game to game, week to week, who's the captain in that game under Coach Knight. And that's not the way it is in today's world. And I think that I think you guys are doing it right in game to game, week to week. You have to have certain people step up because of certain matchups or game plans or anything of that nature.
When I was playing, in the old days, I don't know if they even do it anymore because you don't, you're too much watching commercials, but they used to always send the two captains of each team out to the center court to meet with the referees and talk or something like that. And it was different players every game. I mean, I did it 4 or 5 times my senior year. Ray did it 4 or 5 times. And I would just come in and say, Risley, Tolbert, you go out there and be captains today. But he had a method to his madness when he did that. There was a reason why he wanted us to act like captains that game, because he knew that he was expecting something special out of Ray or myself or Kitchell or Whitman or Isaiah. But it was never the same 2 guys that just went out. We had assigned captains per se, but different people went out to center court all the time.
Mike, Steve, when you got assigned captain, Steve, when you got assigned captain, did it change your mindset? Don't lie. When you got assigned, when you had to go out there, it changed your mindset. You felt responsible.
You felt responsible. Yeah, I'm now a vocal part of. I'm expected to perform above and beyond my normal duties.
Exactly.
No doubt.
And I think that's part of the challenging about it.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about some of the personnel? What's happening to Pfister and McRoberts? Where are these guys going? I mean, are they falling off the face of the earth?
Well, I already told you my opinion on Fitzner, so I'm not going to bring that up again. I just think
bring it up. No, bring it up.
I think the Big Ten
rehash it.
Is a little bit over his head. I hate to say that somebody's soft, but
that's fair.
Today, I saw at least twice where he could have easily had a rebound if he'd have put a body on somebody, and somebody goes right by him and grabs the rebound. With McRoberts, he's been hurt. He plays hard, but I don't think he played well today, Colin.
Agreed. I mean, at the end of the day, I like Evan. I like Zach. I played with Zach for a year. He's a good dude. I think his back is messing with him a little bit. Whatever he sustained within the summer workouts or the preseason workout. Yeah, McRoberts. He messed up his back a little bit or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, if I'm Coach Miller, I'm playing the 5 guys on the court at the end of the day, and the end of the game, who are going to win me that game. And Coach Miller's doing that. And the thing is, I don't know what's going on. You're right. I mean, you're going to put on the best 5 that you think is produced to win that game, right? I mean, you guys know that. That's no question.
You're going to put in the 5 guys that you trust the most.
Well,
exactly.
And it's not important who starts the game. It's important who finishes the game.
Yep.
Who finishes. Exactly. So as a player, I finished most of the games, but I didn't start. I don't care because I finished most of the games because I produced. And I think that one of the biggest things for this team
right now, are you?
No. But
really,
I'm
Steve Risley just said that. Go
just
ahead,
stating facts. All I'm doing is stating facts, Steve and Mike. You know that, Mike.
I agree.
Risley only finished games when IU was up by 30, and they didn't want to humiliate the
game at the end of the game. Put freaking Hartman in the game, and we'll be okay.
I love you guys. But, see, the thing is, I have faith in this team because I have faith in this staff. I have faith in the players. I still know the managers by name. I went to get down to the games a couple of weeks ago, and I knew all the managers. And I got to talk to them about how practice is going. I'm like, look, because one of them, I mean, I know all of them by name, but one of them I was talking to him. I'm not gonna name him just because I don't want to throw him under the bus. But I mean, I was talking to the managers, and I was like, "What's practice like? What is practice like?" And they were like, "Oh, it's 10 times." Right now, these guys got to go harder in practice. They're going harder in the games than they are in practice. And they're like, Coach Miller's getting on them about that to push them to grind harder in practice so the games become easier, right? And I think that's one thing that the upperclassmen have to grasp. If this program is going to take steps forward in the future, is that practice has to be 10 times harder than the games. No questions asked. And if you have any disagreements, Steve, let me know, because I don't think you're going to have any.
I've always said, and Mike's heard me say this a million times, and I've said this to anybody that I've ever talked to about Indiana basketball. My era, games were a vacation to us. We got a game. That was a day off. I mean, are you kidding me? We just have to play a game today. We don't have to practice. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I can rest today. That's how tough our practices were day in and day out. And that's what championship teams do. And literally, we would all joke, it's a game day. Oh, thank God. It's only 2 hours. I'm probably not going to play the whole game. Occasionally I did. Sometimes I will. But it's a vacation day for you almost. And that's the culture you want to create. That's the culture that championship teams create. Great observation. Another question for you. Is Devontae Green getting a fair shake, Collin, or not? I don't know. I mean, I love him, but is there a place for him? Mike and Collin, both of you guys.
There's obviously a place for him, because at the end of the game, that's one of the guys that finished.
Yeah. And I will guarantee you, Mike and Steve, at the end, in practice, day after day after day, I guarantee you that Devontae is producing in practice. Because if he wasn't, he wouldn't be in at the end of the games. Chris Miller,
what's costing him playing time?
What did you say?
What's costing him playing time? Is it just Finney and Romeo that's costing him playing time? Or, I mean, he's not on the court as much as I'd like to see him on the court.
I think that the way Rob is playing, I think the way that Rob takes care of the ball is playing a big role, quite candidly. And these games on neutral courts or on the road are highly valued. So if you can get Steve, we've talked about this week after week after week. If you can get on a win on the road in any league, in any game, if you can get a win on the road, it is unmatched, because they're so hard to come by. And I think that, judging by the results, quite candidly, Rob is producing more than Rob. Or Rob is producing more than Devontae. It's not even close, based on the results from the game.
I'm just concerned, is Devontae getting an opportunity to produce? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
How about this, Steve?
I'm not putting blame anywhere.
When you look at the stat
Devontae
line,
Green as a basketball player,
Steve,
I like him a ton. I think he's a valuable asset to his basketball team. I think the more you play him, the more calm he's going to get and more control he's going to get. But, geez, it's just hard right now to find a hole for him.
All right.
Because Langford is Langford, and Finney is playing out of his rear end.
All right, Steve.
Consistently. It's not like it's a fluke. It's consistent.
I just called you like 8.
Steve, the thing with Devontae is this, though. He plays today, didn't play a lot, but he still was tied with Finney for the most assists on the team. I mean, he had 5 assists.
Okay, good.
He scored 5 points, a couple personal fouls, and a turnover. I mean, the way Finney's playing, Devontae Green's my favorite player on the team, but Finney has earned
mine too. He's mine too, probably. Yeah, I would like to see him be the starting point guard with Finney and Romeo. But my mentality is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I don't think right now Indiana's got to do much of anything. I like we talked about earlier. I think they overcompensated on post defense today. That's a good sign to me, because it means they're focused on it and they're aware of it, and they'll fix it, because I believe Coach Miller is a great basketball coach, and I think he's dialing it in right now, and we're getting into the Big Ten where he's got to dial it in. Everything else is good. Vocal leadership, like I said, I think it's going to emerge into Finney's hands, Collin. You're right there. He's going to become the vocal leader of this basketball team. I look forward to that day, because I think the day he starts doing that, Indiana takes it up another notch real fast.
All right, guys.
Great.
We're going to go ahead. You guys got anything else to add for this game before we wrap it up?
No. All I got is go ahead, Steve.
No. I have nothing. I'm yakking the yak.
That doesn't stop Steve from talking. Go ahead, Collin.
I love to hear myself talk. I apologize to the world.
The guys just need to keep on grinding out wins.
Yeah.
And stay mentally tough, because at the end of the day, all of the tournament guys, all they look at is W's and losses.
Mm-hmm.
Just all it is. And so, as long as you grind out win after win after win, and a game like this in a neutral court is great for us. It just is. That's the way it is.
Win.
And Butler will probably be an NCAA tournament team.
Exactly. So, why not win this game, add to our resume, and just roll with it? So that's all I have to add to that.
Next up on, is it Tuesday or Wednesday night, Central Arkansas will travel to Indiana. Steve, what do you think's the key to beating Central Arkansas?
Keep doing what you're doing. I think right now Indiana's kind of controlling their own destiny right now. I think that this is a team that if they just stay focused on how they're playing and play the same way, and they keep honing in on the things we've talked about. I'm not going to, the post defense and the on-court leadership. I don't think Indiana's a team to be trifled with at all by anybody. I think I agree with you, Mike. They're a top 10 basketball team very quickly. They're one or two things away from making them a legitimate top 10 basketball team. But I wouldn't change much of anything Indiana's doing right now. I just keep getting better. That's all I would change.
Central Arkansas is a 500 team. I think they're 4-5 or 5-4. Common opponents, they lost to Louisville 86-41. Not a common opponent. They got blown out by Pitt by 26. They lost to St. Louis 73-61. Their best player is DeAndre Jones, who's a guard who does pretty much everything for him. So Wednesday night, the Hoosiers will play at 7 o'clock. You can hear me, Steve, and Collin immediately after the game, somewhere between 9 and 9:30. Any final words, Collin, before we sign off?
Hey, I'm not going to completely disregard what you said, Mike, but at the end of the day, with a team like this, no disrespect for the team that we're playing, but it comes down to working on being the best at what we do. It has nothing to do with the other team or what they do or anything of that nature. And I guarantee Steve will agree with me, is in the practices leading up to this game, we will do and practice what we do. We will only watch film of maybe 20 or 30 minutes worth of what they do. But we will watch film of what the mistakes that we made in this game and the mistakes that we made in previous games to become better as a team. And I think that moving forward with the talent that we have and the capabilities that we have, that we should obviously have a recruiting or a scouting part of the other teams, but it really comes down to us. If we're the best at what we do, we will control games and win games. Yeah. And that's especially in a game like this coming up.
Yeah, and this is a game that what I want to see is I want to come out and see them just hammer somebody in the first 15 minutes. Then they can play everybody else the rest of the game. That's one thing that they have not done recently. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. We'll be back.
You didn't ask me.
I asked you before I gave the Central Arkansas
No.
thing.
Hey, I did. Two things.
Hey, Collin, you'll back me up on this. Didn't I ask Steve if he had anything else to add? Did I not say that?
You did, but hey, let Steve roll. Let Steve roll, baby. Go ahead, Steve. Let me hear what you got to say.
I'm going to compliment. I love it because I think Colin's been reading a bunch of Bob Knight coaching books. Because what he just said is exactly what Bob Knight did. You focus on your own abilities to play at your own level. You worry about yourself and your opponents. You'll take care of your opponents. If you're better, we had one offense and one defense in 1981. We had a man-to-man offense and a motion offense, and that's all we had. Everybody knew what we were doing, but we were so good at it that nobody could beat us at it. That's all we did. And Colin's exactly right.
Do what you do.
On the opponent. Here's what they do. This is what their tendencies are, but here's what we've got to get better at, and this is where we're going to spend the rest 50 minutes of this hour, is focus on us and not them. And that's That's the mentality. If Archie Miller instills that culture into Indiana basketball again, you'll start to see things happening like they happened in the 70s and 80s for Indiana basketball. And that's what we all want. Secondly,
you're already seeing it.
Mike, make sure you plug our interview with Todd Jadlow on the 30 for 30 thing.
Yeah, because I would have totally forgot that. Thanks for letting me know, Steve. I don't know what to do without you.
Well, I don't trust you, Mike.
You don't trust me?
We just.
Oh, that's crazy.
I'm your leader, asshole. It could be me calling
Hold
Ted
on now,
Kitchell
Mike.
before you
Easy,
know it.
Mike. Easy. Not on this show, Mike. Not on this show, baby. Not on this show.
Mike, you're in the baby seat in the back seat.
I don't think so.
Colin and I
Not compared to
driving.
Steve. Did you notice Steve got inducted to the Gall of Fame?
The G and the H are right next to each other on the goddamn keyboard.
Did you ever think about maybe looking at what you send before you send it? Because someday that could get you in a lot of trouble.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. What's number two, Steve?
Someday, Mike.
And did I not correct myself before you even responded?
No,
Yes,
because
I
actually had
right
already
here.
responded, and they kind of came at the same time. But it doesn't
Yeah, they
matter.
did. Okay,
it was still funny.
Mike, wrap it up. I love you guys.
Move on.
I've been trying to, but Steve wanted to throw it in.
Hey, when's our next show? When's our next show, Mike?
Wednesday night after we beat Central Arkansas, 103 to 47.
Show at 9 o'clock tonight. Colin, did you get the samples of Viagra I sent you? Jesus.
No, I don't need those yet. I'm 24 years old,
The scary thing is
baby.
this. The more IU wins, the more Colin becomes like Steve. So from now on, I'll try to start the show by introducing everybody, and then I'll just go watch TV for a half hour and come back.
I love Colin today. He was on it today, man. He was ripping and roaring.
I know.
Good job,
he was by far the
Mike,
best former IU
dog me
basketball
today.
player on the show. By far.
He's the star of the show today.
I love you guys.
All right, guys, remember
remember
to check out the interview that me and Steve and I did with Todd Jadlow about the Bob Knight 30 for 30. That's on thegruelingtruth.net. We'll be back Wednesday night to talk Central Arkansas and Indiana right after the game. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Spotify. Wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Steve Risley, Collin Hartman, who was much better than Steve today, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth,
hey, Mike,
where the legends speak.
Mike,
What?
rephrase that today. Reverse it. Say, force Collin Hartman and Steve Risley. He gets to go above me today. He's earned it.
Oh, easy.
I did.
Damn,
I
see,
did
you
put
didn't have
there.
to do all that.